Today we're going to be talking about law of detachment, law of syllogism. These are a little bit more of the logic statements, but we're using them in a different way. The law of detachment is a way. Actually, let me just show you an example because that's going to be the best way to explain this. If you make a statement like, if I study, then I will get an A. Okay? If I study, then I will get an A. The whole premise behind this is the if-then statement. If I do something, then something happens. So the hypothesis is if I study, what's going to happen? I will get an A. Well, the law of detachment states that if we have this statement, if, and then statement, and something satisfies the if statement, then the conclusion naturally follows. For example, if I study, then I'll get an A. Alright, then I say I studied. Well, what's the logic conclusion? I got an A. Now, you can only assume the conclusion if the hypothesis is stated. So that's saying, like, if I studied, then I'll get an A. So I can only assume that I got an A if I studied first. Okay? But you can't do it vice versa. You can't assume, okay, I will get an A. If I will get an A, then I studied. You can't assume the hypothesis from the conclusion. Alright? So if I made the statement, I got an A, the conclusion I can make from that is I cannot make a conclusion because I don't know how I got that A. Alright? I could have gotten the A by cheating. I could have gotten the A by bribing the teacher. There is no logical conclusion to make from that. It's just that I got an A. I can't say that I studied because that wasn't part of the conclusion. The only thing you can say is since I studied, then I can get an A. Alright? So if this happens, this will happen. If I just say I got an A, there is no conclusion to make from that. So you'd write something like no conclusion. Another one, for example, if I practice, then I will start in the game. If I practice, then I will start in the game. So this is a logical conclusion. I can only make the conclusion that if I practice, I have to practice, I will start in the big game. So, on a paper or something, what's going to happen is they're going to give you something like this. They're going to say, they're going to give you the if-then statement, and then they're going to say, I will play in the big game. And then they'll ask for a conclusion. So I made the statement: if I practice, I will start in the game, and then I make the statement: I will play in the big game. What's the conclusion that can be made? Well, once again, if you look at that, we're essentially looking for something that comes after. Since this is the conclusion, nothing comes after the conclusion. So there is no conclusion to this idea. So no conclusion. Had this statement said I practiced, then we can go to the logical conclusion. If I practice, it goes to the next thing. I will play in the big game. But if I just say I will play in the big game, well, there's no logical conclusion to come after that, so we can't technically say anything. We have to say there is no conclusion because the conclusion does not exist. Or if I say, if I punch a man, then I will go to jail. Okay? If I punch a man, I'll go to jail. Well, if then I make the statement, I punched a man, we look at it. Here's the statement. Here's what I'm doing. I am punching a man. So look at what comes after that. Well, what comes after that? Well, there is a logical conclusion already, so my conclusion would be I will go to jail. So that's the whole thing, is that because I punched a man, then I will go to jail. But if I said I went to jail, it doesn't mean I punched a man. You can't go backwards. Everything flows forward. So you cannot go backwards. You always have to flow forward with the law of detachment. If there's nothing to flow forward to, that's when we have the no conclusion. Okay, so I want you guys to try one on your own. If I buy a puppy, then I will have to buy dog food. And then the statement I'm going to make is I bought dog food. So, this is the statement that I'm making. Now, what I want you to do is tell me what the conclusion is. You can pause the video. You can just think about it inside your head. I'm going to wait 10 seconds on this video before I start up again. And I want you to think about what you would do. Okay. So, I bought dog food. Well, this goes along with the conclusion. So as I said before, everything moves forward. I cannot go backwards. I have to go forwards. Now, if I go forwards, there's nothing there. There's nothing after buying dog food. So there is no conclusion to be made. Why does this make sense? Well, think about it. I can go buy dog food. I can probably go eat the dog food if I go buy it. But I cannot make a conclusion based off of just I went and bought dog food. One more. If I drive my car, then I will have to buy gas. Drive my car, I will have to buy gas. Once again, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think of a conclusion. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't give you a statement. My bad. I drove my car. Okay, 10 seconds more. So my statement is I drove my car. Okay, so the only conclusion is, okay, so I drove my car, so that's part of the hypothesis. Let's look at what goes next. Well, there's actually something there now. Then my conclusion would be I will have to buy gas. That's all the law of detachment says, is that if A, then B, and if A happens, then B naturally happens afterwards. But if A, then B, and B happens, meaning the then statement happens, then there is no logical conclusion. We have to write no conclusion. That's the law of detachment. The law syllogism. So law of syllogism is a little bit different. There's two if-then statements. Say something like this. if I run over a bunny, then it will die. If it will die, then I will be sad. So, there's two if-then statements. If I run over a bunny, then it will die. If it will die, then I will be sad. This is what the law of syllogism tells us. If we have two statements, okay, if we have an if and a then statement that essentially say the same thing, we can cross out both. Alright? And what's left over is our new statement. So, by the logic, if I run over a bunny, then I will be sad. Why is that? Because the bunny's going to die, and because it dies, I'm sad. So we can just go straight line it, saying if I run over a bunny, then I will be sad. So that becomes our new if-then statement. If I run over a bunny, then I will be sad. Now, this only works if you have an if and a then that say the same thing. I can't say something like this. If I join the NBA, then I will be rich. If I join the NFL, then I will be rich. Now, here we have something that says the same thing. I will be rich. It's said there twice, and it's said in both by the then statement. Because one of these is not an if statement, we can't cross anything out. There's no streamlining anything. We can't say, if I join the NBA, then I will join the NFL. That wouldn't make any sense. So, here, you'd write no conclusion. Because there's no conclusion to be had. Okay, so if I join the NBA, I know I'll be rich. If I join the NFL, then I know I'll be rich. That doesn't mean you just write, I will be rich. There actually is no conclusion to this. Because there's no way to streamline it. This is the conclusion because we said, if this, then this. If that thing happens, then something else will happen. Let me give you another one. If I run a mile, then I will be tired. If I if I join a running group, then I will run a mile. Okay? Okay, so it says if I run a mile, then I will be tired. If I join a running group, then I will run a mile. Now, in this one up here, they came in order. The then and the if were essentially right after each other. But we had to look in this one. Well, this if statement is the same as this then statement. So we can actually cross it out even though it doesn't look like it's in order. We can still cross these two out. They still say the same thing. One's an if, one's a then, and we can now streamline the process and say, okay, so if I join a running group, then I will be tired. Okay, so I took the if and I took the then and I put them together because that's a logical statement to be had. Because if I join a running group, then I'm going to have to run a mile. Because I ran that mile, I will be tired. So I can just say right away, if I join the running group, I will be tired. It's just going to happen. This is our logical conclusion. So, if if I run or if I skate on the ice, then I will fall. If I step on ice, then I will fall. So once again, you have two then statements that are saying the same thing, but we can't do anything about it. Okay, these are two different actions. I'm skating on ice, I'm stepping on ice. Alright? So yes, I will fall if I do both of them, but we can't combine them into one. Alright, let me do one more explaining, and I'm going to have you guys try. If I get an A, then I get candy. If I get an A, then I get a hug. Okay? Once again, two if statements that say the same thing, but with two different conclusions. Even though they both are saying the same thing, we can't cross these out because one has to be an if and one has to be then, but because they're both if statements that say the same thing, there is no conclusion. So you'd write something like no conclusion. So, that's all I have for you. If you have any questions, just